Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Jim and Rob Over-Analyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. Heck, it's the home of the best chat on the internet. It's the place where you come to go beyond the review, to go above the review, to dive deep into the story, into the craft, into the meaning of the films we watch today. Now, I want you all to stay tuned. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Of course, we will be checking out to see if that 80s classic Caddyshack holds up. But we've got another special treat for you. Our good friend Brian from Dragon Movie Guy is going to be sharing another of the movies on his radar. But first, let me welcome, without much more ado, my good friend, our good friend, my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chboyko. How you doing?
Hiya, hockey pucks. That's more of a Don Rickles thing than a Rodney Dangerfield thing. But anyway, how you doing?
Close enough. pretty darn good. What's shaking? What's crack-a-lacking?
Well, the Bombers just won the game. As I was driving home from the lake, I was listening to it and watching the sun set over the prairies. So that was kind of a nice way. Surprisingly nice couple of days, considering that my little time thing on my phone, or the weather thing on my phone, showed that it was going to be raining every hour of both days, and it.
Really?
Yeah, well, just 50%, 60%, 70%, 30%, 40%, basically everything, every hour upon the hour, it was going to be raining this weekend, and
all of the rain.
Yeah, and we had a beautiful afternoon yesterday, a nice evening, and today was gorgeous too. So yeah, it's that unsettled fall weather, but yeah, it's not too bad. Hey, Vu, how are you doing?
I was awfully sick this morning, Jim. I a bad stomach ache, but it actually went up the sides of my stomach. I've never had anything like that happen to me before. And well, yeah, and as some of you may know, Jim and I are kind of tertiarily involved with a lot of other Manitoba podcasters, and those folks are setting up the Manitoba Podcasting Festival, the next of the annual podcasting festivals coming up in September. Do I know the date? No, because I haven't attended the last couple of meetings because, today I was actually sick, and I'm like, I don't feel good. I got to go back to bed. But woke up later this afternoon, and it was like, okay, I still don't feel quite right, but I'm much better than I was before. So
yeah.
What else?
That's good. You're feeling better.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chboyko. What else? I am. Well, you know what? I'm going to save this for next week because I still got some polish on it, but I am starting a new project. And all I would share on this is the ad for that new project. So, there's the teaser. Sure. That's about all I can give right now. I haven't finished the ad, but it'll come on next week. And then I think that's about it. We do have a. Oh yeah.
Really quickly, sorry. I did see my first movie in the theater this past week. Something you and Brian have gone over lately, the Green Knight. So that was.
Hey, look at this! We're getting screwed by Restream again. It is not starting on the. It has not gone to.
You trying to upload our guest?
No, our guest is fine. He's here. It's not actually live on YouTube yet, for whatever reason. 1 second here. Yeah. We're just gabbing into the live on YouTube yet. Oh, for whatever reason. Oh, never mind. We're back on. We have been there. Just for whatever reason, YouTube didn't want to let me know that. Who knows? Sorry, you were gonna say you had a little moment there.
Yeah, just caught my first movie in the theater since 1917. Not literally the year, but the movie 1917 was the last one that I'd seen in the theater. So, first one in about a year and a half.
What did you see this time?
Well, my wife and I saw The Green Knight, and it was
give us your quick review.
Two things, real quick, because I know we're trying to bring on somebody else here, but I separate the experience from the movie. The experience, I had a smile on my face the entire time. The just being able, sort of being awash in that quality of sound again, and with The Green Knight, it's whether you like it or hate it, it's a visually rich movie with a lot of David Lowery's obviously enjoying himself with this one, and it was great to see. I was smiling the entire time. The movie itself, I thought was pretty good. There were a few changes I would have made. I kind of think that Dev Patel was only miscast a little bit because of his age. I think they needed a rasher, younger Knight. I mean, this is basically a guy who's failing up, kind of, and making a lot of mistakes on the way, of course. But I thought it was a good movie to return to the theaters for. So
that's interesting. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is he wasn't a callow youth. He was a callow late 20s. 30 Are you gonna failure to launch?
I think he's even got a couple of kids.
There you go. It's Sergio Wayne's failure to launch the movie.
Well, he's 31 now, apparently. So, but anyway, yeah. So it was, I quite enjoyed the whole experience, and the sound, the vision, the visuals. I made my wife sit through the end credits just to hear the music. So that was
Like you said, just to be back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my friend, I'm going to. Yeah, I think it's time to move the machine forward. We do have a great friend of the show has returned to tell us what's on his radar, and let's bring him in. The man, the myth, dragon movie guy. How you doing?
Hey, Rob, Jim, how's it going, everybody?
We're doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. I think I just went off into another nap after at a mention of The Green Knight. I got a good sleep in. I fell asleep 3 times the first time I saw it in theaters. So
you know what, folks? We'll make sure we pin that in. We pin our. You were kind enough to come on the show and guess a pinch hit for Jim while he was in travel mode, and we'll pin at least the quick review, and from there you could go to the deep dive, where Brian and I continue to slightly overlap but mostly diverge on our opinions on that film. You can get the whole range of feelings.
The Entertainment Weekly reviewer called the movie, and take this for what it's worth. I thought it was kind of a smart comment. Marvel antimatter. So, I think
you can love or hate that. You can love or hate the film and like the comment.
Yeah, but
so
anyhow,
good
I think just that. Well, I think as a sort of as just a different kind of filmmaking rather than a sort of a critical comment. It's just like, the opposite of the fast cuts and fast editing and stuff like that. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's, sorry to cut you off there, Jim. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Tell me you can hear me. I'm screwing around with some new equipment and never mind. Okay. Brian, you've got coming out. I did check your channel isn't quite right out, but you're giving us a little teaser. Half of your 10 movies on your radar that you'll become pushing out the door pretty soon, eh?
Yes, I am doing a fall movie preview, a top 10 list of movies that I'm excited for coming out this fall. I'm launching it September 1st, the morning of. Might as well launch it on the first day of, the unofficial first day of fall, at least according to me. And I'm going to be going over my first 5 of the top 10 list, and you can watch the top 5 of that top 10 list when it comes out on my channel on Wednesday morning.
All the more reason, folks. all the more reason to subscribe to his channel. His channel links are in the description, or they might not be, but I will make sure they are by the end of the show. Okay, Brian, why don't you... we're starting at number... So this is a top 10 list.
Top 10 list starting at...
We're getting 5 of them, the bottom half, the teaser half. Very kind of you to do so. And we're starting at number 10, correct?
Yes, we're starting at number 10, the first 5 of this list. And number 10 is The Matrix Resurrections. This
Probably
is
not Caddyshack.
No, this is...
Sorry.
If we came out with Caddyshack, was it 2 or 3? That'd be impressive too. But The Matrix Resurrections, it is the 4th film. It is the first film since 2003. Lana Wachowski is back, but she is directing and writing the movie solo. Her sibling, is not involved in the sequel. It is Carrie-Anne Moss. It is Keanu Reeves back as Trinity and Neo. But there is several new cast members. There is the Addams Family's Christina Ricci. There is Baywatch's Priyanka Chopra Jonas. There is Glee's Jonathan Groff, and there is Jada Pinkett Smith returning as Niobe. So
super cool, man.
Yeah, it's a cool cast. There isn't a lot listed as to the specifics of the film as of yet, but we don't have a trailer as of yet. But anytime a Matrix film is going to come out, that's going to for sure be on my top 10 list.
What's the target opening date again? Like, when is it supposed to, or is it coming soon?
In theaters and on HBO Max, December 22nd.
Awesome. Okay. Number 9. What are we looking at?
Number 9 on my list is Blue Bayou. That is written and directed. I've got to get his name right. Written and directed by Justin Chon. It also stars Oscar winner Alicia Vikander. It is about a Korean American getting involved with a white single mom and raising her daughter, and Alicia Vikander is pregnant with his child. They're in the Midwest. Some complications ensue, and it's sort of an interesting look inside immigration in America for Korean American immigrants.
Awesome. All right.
And that one comes out on, if I see my notes correctly, September 17th.
Perfect. Okay, number 7.
Number
8. Sorry,
8, the third of our first 5. Number 8 is it's one we're seeing a lot of commercials for right now. It is coming out on September 3rd. It is the 25th MCU movie. It is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It is starring Simu Liu, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. If you don't know the plot by now, it is sort of a father and son back and forth. It is the first Asian majority cast in the MCU. There were mentions of the Legend of the Ten Rings all the way back in Iron Man 1 back in 2008, going back to the very beginnings of the MCU. But this is the first time we're really seeing it on camera, unless we're talking about Trevor Slattery and Iron Man 3, which was sort of a no, but this is a true look at the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is Shang-Chi. This is an origin story. It's a little bit of everything. Some people have reviews out already. I have not seen it yet, so I've been avoiding all the reviews. But that comes out on September 3rd. Oh, and interestingly, because of Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit with Disney, they are not releasing it on streaming right away. They're doing a 45-day window after September 3rd before it goes to streaming. And The Eternals, which comes out in November, is waiting and seeing as to how this is going to play out before they determine what to do with the streaming. So.
This is on Jim and I's radar as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps coming up soon. You know, if people actually go into our description and see our agenda for the next few weeks. And yes, Jim, you referring to the Canadian connection. Why don't you elaborate on
no,
that?
I was just scratching an itch there, Rob. Canadian superhero Simu Liu is by way of China. He was, I believe, I can't remember if I think he was born in Harbin, but he was essentially raised as a child in Canada and is, for all intents and purposes, from Mississauga, so just outside of Toronto.
He was a star of Kim's Convenience, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the son, the wayward son. So, yeah,
worked at a car rental place.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, there's a bunch of controversy regarding his casting when it was first announced that he was going to be in the film.
Yeah, that's so.
Go ahead, Jim.
I can't remember the details of it exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, it was one of those weird. It seemed to be more of a media generated. Hey, did you hear that they might have said this about you? Well, if they said that about me, I might be kind of pissed about it. Okay, then. He's kind of pissed about it. That thing. Maybe he's pissed about that. Maybe there was I think more the drama was when the producers killed Kim's Convenience. A number of the Korean, Canadian, and Korean American actors in it were choked for a number of reasons, including they didn't feel that any of their story contributions were being respected, coming from actually having lived the stories that were being told. And then apparently the producers, so they killed this film, they got 1 million actors, they decide that we'll take the one white actor and create a spin-off around her. Now, this is a lot of reported that, but a lot of it was just the producers, without maybe even telling CBC or maybe letting CBC lie that they were unaware of it. Who knows? Basically just said, okay, well, we don't want to do this anymore. And just people out of jobs. So there's a bit of Canadian television gossip for you.
Canadian drama, always good to keep up on.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, what's next, man?
In at number 7 on my list is Dune. That is the remake of the 1984 sci-fi classic, the cinematic realization of the Frank Herbert sci-fi novel. This one is starring Timothée Chalamet. It also has an all-star cast. Basically, if there's been someone in a big budget Hollywood blockbuster in recent years, they're probably in this movie. Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Dave Bautista. They're all in this film. So
Javier Bardem, Zendaya.
Yeah. We've got like half of the MCU represented, including Thanos. We've got Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista. So we've got both the wrestling world covered.
Charlotte Rampling in
Star Wars, Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, exactly. There's a huge cast for this one. The special effects look amazing. I've seen the original movie. I have not read the book. So as far as how closely it ties to the book, I'm not exactly sure. But the effects look really good on this. This is one that was supposed to come out last year, if I remember right. And this one is coming out on This is another one that comes out
October
on HBO
22nd.
Max. And in theaters, yes, December 22nd. October 22nd.
Yeah. This one, I don't know about you, Jim. I'm super excited about it. I was a big fan of the book when I was a kid. I don't know, Jim. What's your connection to this story? Oh, Jesus! My bad. You need to repeat that.
Oh, sure.
What was your connection to the story?
Yeah.
And then I unmute you because you're doing your fan thing, and it was very loud. Anyway,
Sure.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's so hot. Suddenly it's hot in this room. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, all the kids in the kids ahead that had already read Tolkien and that sort of thing had gone on to Frank Herbert. So I I guess I was probably the right age for it. I picked it up, and boy, you're aware right away that it's a different entity. This isn't just a novelization of the movie Krull, but it's I like to drop as many Krull references as I can. But it's another beast entirely. And this guy, it was almost thick like Game of Thrones. The books are thick. When and it took a while to read. There was 1,000 characters, and you had to be on the ball when you read it. I read a couple other of Frank Herbert's The White Plague and a couple others, but those Dune books were very almost intimidating when you're like 12 or 13. As you get older, they're obviously a little easier to read, but just super impressive. It's like you're instantly aware that you've got a different beast in your hands, kind of. I don't know if that makes. Was that your experience, Rob?
Absolutely. I felt like I had moved up a level.
Yes.
Like we really were. Not to say that Lord of the Rings, you read The Hobbit or any of the knockoff, like Swords of the Elfstones of Shannara, all the Shannara stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you got, like you say, you got a hold of Dune, and I think it just kind of traveled amongst us as kids, and talking about you and I growing up. I don't know about you, Brian, but I remember, and it's like, oh, this is grown up. My mother praised it. And she, like, my folks were big readers, but for my mother to oh, well, that's different. And, you all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm reading a book my mother read. And we're having a connection over this remarkable book. Yeah, it was.
And, I had a couple of, I never read the book as a kid, but a lot of my friends did. And, it does tie in closely with Tolkien, but it also, it's a sci-fi film or sci-fi thing as well, to where it is clearly, it's a fantasy, but it's also sci-fi. So it has that, it's different worlds, and you have big sandworms, and you have class struggle, and you have all that kind of stuff. And it just, and the effects of this one look really good. The original is worth a rewatch, I would say. It has both Captain Picard and Emperor Palpatine in it. So, it's one of those, it has a little bit of everyone from the early and mid-'80s.
And it was David Lynch directed it. You're going to get a little weird.
Yeah, exactly. David Lynch, as we've seen, he's done lots of other cool stuff, but always has a little bit of a weird bend. I believe David Bowie was in it, if I remember right too. But
no, Sting.
Sting. That's
Sting
it.
has figured out that.
Yeah. But yeah, that one also had a big cast. This one has a big cast. So that is number 7 on my list.
Yes.
Look forward.
And the only thing I'll judge you on is that this film was not higher on your list. That said, let's just put a pin in my judgment on you. We got to wait and see what the other 5 are when you publish in a couple of days. So I could be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
All right. What's next, man?
And
it's the last one on your list.
The last one of the first 5, the top of the first 5, the number 6 on my list is the second of 3 MCU films coming out this fall. It is Eternals. I struggle to not call it The Eternals, but it's Eternals, starring Angelina Jolie, directed by Chloe Zhao, of one of your favorite films, Rob. The director of one of your favorite films. This one involves the Eternals, which is a group of immortals sent to Earth thousands of years ago. They've been here ever since, and the impetus is in the wake of the snap. In Avengers Endgame, stuff is starting to happen, and they're kind of emerging from there, hiding in plain sight, emerging from secrecy. It's a huge cast.
It's just hanging, and I guess we gotta.
They've been doing that thing, where they're not allowed to interfere, but they're here, and they're interfering, but they're not interfering, but they're interfering.
Nothing up to that point had motivated them. Not Holocaust, not.
Yeah, they never aged. But it is a cast of Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Gemma Chan, a couple of Game of Thrones actors in Richard Madden and Kit Harington. And of course, one of my favorites, Kumail Nanjiani, is playing Kingo. There's 10 of those Immortals characters in as the Eternals, and that comes out on November 5th.
Well, that's super cool, man. What? Why are you more excited about the Eternals than some of the other films that were on this half of your list? What gets that? Okay, yeah.
Well, if anything, the question should be for me. I'm a huge fan of the MCU, a huge fan of superhero films. So, if anything, the question should be, at least in terms of my list, is why isn't the Eternals? Why isn't an MCU big budget film higher on my list than number 6?
Oh, a little teaser for the top 5. No more MCU, because this is it for the MCU for the rest of the year, isn't it?
There's 3 more movies, 3 movies yet to come in the MCU in 2021. There's 4 movies total, but yeah, there's 3 in the last 3 months or last 4 months.
And you're
year,
holding on that?
Yes,
they may end up in a list.
Yes, and And none of these are, it's not a slam that they're any lower. It's just my list of excitement for the final 4 months of the year, the top 10 movies of that final 4 months. So in at number 6 is Eternals. Almost screwed up my own.
Gotcha.
Well, I was going to suggest that 1 to 5 are all rom-coms.
Yeah. There's all massive suffering, and that's not just the rom-coms. That's also it's the top of the list. It has a lot of movies that people have been looking forward to for a long time, including a couple of sequels that have been decades in the making. So,
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting fall, especially as theaters kind of crank up again. Hopefully. This is an exciting time. I think it also might kind of give us a good idea of what the future for film and theater versus streaming is. This will we're starting to move into the new normal. We're going to start to see, I think, how it really is going to play out and what we can expect in 2022 and beyond for some of these films that would always have been theatrical and now there's other ways we might see them. And I
was just going to say too, yes. I believe too, that we're going to be seeing a little bit of a change in blockbusters coming out throughout the year, not just in summer, not just in fall or Christmas time, I should say. So
listen, Brian, before you go, before I get your coat, we do have a comment from Richard regarding Dune, and maybe we can all have a quick chat on it before we go. All right, here you go. Bye-bye. Richard says, referring to our earlier chat about Dune, he says he agrees. Read the first 3 or 4 books in the Dune series in his early 20s and found them challenging but also fascinating, much like a Tolkien book. Brian, what was your first interaction with Dune? Did it come to you a little later in life, or was it part of your teen, early 20s thing? What's the story there?
Actually, a couple of friends in high school were huge into Tolkien, but they were also into Dune. And at lunch, my friends Dan and a friend of mine named Mike, they would all go into they would say Shai Hulud. I don't know if I'm doing the Star Trek thing right there, but
that was their thing.
That was one of our many things.
That's
where
awesome.
They'd be like,
okay.
Shai Hulud, brother, Shai Hulud. And then in college, a couple of years later, there was a Dune video game. In which they had the little sandworms coming up, and it was back when computers were 486 games. It was very much like Doom and a bunch of TIE Fighter came out around then too. But it was sort of that generation of video games, and I got a copy of Dune, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a God's eye view. It was you tried to build up your you tried to build up in the desert planet, and then every once in a while the sandworm would pop up and eat everything you just built. So that was sort of my history with Dune. Not an extensive history, but that is my history with Dune.
Does this? Of course, there's a.
I want to look
BS.
this game up now.
Well, I'm pulling something up here. Give me a second.
We're talking mid-90s, so it's it was my freshman year of college. I think
this is exactly what you're describing here.
Yeah, it was God's Eye, top eye down.
You got troopers and
yeah, I mean it was sort of like Sim City, like that generation of Sim City.
Yeah. Wow.
But the still doesn't do it justice. The gameplay was a lot of fun. And I didn't really know a whole lot of mythology behind it, but occasionally they would have like a between scenes, they would have like a still shot of some of the aliens, and they'd tell you some of the mythology. I don't remember a ton of the mythology of what they were, but the gameplay was a lot of fun, and it definitely felt like there was a bigger world behind than just the game. I just didn't get to know it all that well at the time. So
cool. So you've got this video coming out. Anything else we should be keeping an eye on? From
a couple more movie reviews coming out. I have my review coming out on. It's sort of my version of Coda. It's not a feel good film by any stretch, but it's a review of Habit, which is it's got an ex-Disney star who's trying to poke fun at the mouth that feeds her, and that was Disney. Now she's in her early 20s. She is on OnlyFans, and this is sort of the creative extension of that. It's Habit, where she's playing a nun. So got the Habit there.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So it's the dual meaning, sort of like Coda.
Bella Thorne.
Yeah.
Speaking of drama.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is. It's nowhere near as good as Coda, but it is. It's an interesting film. It's an interesting look to look at. I've already written my movie review of it so far. I just have not done my video movie review of it yet. I'm going to be doing a 5-minute movie review on Habit as well. So
gotcha. Well, it's looking got a nice little slate coming out. Plus, of course, your regular. Your quick reaction video, very exciting. Of course, folks, he's mostly active on Instagram at Dragon Movie Guy. Same handle for Twitter, though, and I keep pestering him on Twitter, and his activity on Twitter is increasing, which is always nice to see.
I'm trying to. You tend to retweet my own tweets more than I tweet my tweets, so I'm trying to up my game a little bit there. Also on Twitter and on Instagram, I've been posting a lot more survey questions, some attempts to get people's reaction to things there to gauge people's interest. So, like little top 4 lists or just what.
Even some of your stuff where it's like, it's not worthy of a video, but you can still have a chat about it. I like those.
Yeah. And I'm just, trying to start conversations and, like what was your favorite movie this summer? What was your favorite action movie? What was your favorite blockbuster? And all kinds of like little tidbits I'm trying to put onto my Instagram and onto my Twitter and onto my Facebook fan page. So trying to kind of getting all over the place. So also I have a couple of videos planned for Shang-Chi coming out this week as well. So full slate of content coming up.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
We do have your coat for you. The door's open.
It's still summer.
We're not trying to air condition the whole world. Because I'm sure we all remember that from our parents. But thank you very much for coming, everyone. Again, at Dragon Movie Guy. Of course, I will have a link, and as soon as the video, the other half of this, what's on Brian's radar, what's on Dragon Movie Guy's radar, is up. I will link that video in our description and in a pinned comment.
Stay tuned for the top 5.
Groovy, man. Well, listen, Brian, thank you very, very much for hanging with us.
Thanks for having me. Always a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Always
take care.
a great time.
Go
Take it
Seahawks.
easy, Ben. Go
Hey.
All right. That was cool, eh?
Yeah,
Always good
yeah.
to have Brian on the shoe, on the big shoe.
And the reminders are good too, because I always forget, the schedule and what's coming up when it seems really quick for The Matrix, for instance. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
And sometimes, like, you know what? I mean, I had heard about Coda,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until, a few months after it worked the festival circuit, it was such a darling at Sundance. And then a few months later, when Sean came on the show and mentioned it again, where it's like, yeah, right. Blue Bayou sounds like a very interesting film. I'll definitely throw it on our possibles. It definitely will check it out myself regardless. Yeah, and I'd never heard of it before.
No. I predict nothing bad will happen to anyone in that movie.
Ooh, maybe we have to do it just to see how that courageous prediction plays out for you, Jim.
But
all
all I want to do is play the Dune video game. A sandworm ate my melange. Or is it melange? I don't know. But anyway.
Okay, Jim, before we actually get started with this show, why don't we've got a few folks in the chat. Why don't we say hello and then we'll get the machine going?
You bet.
All right, everyone. We've got as things start to pick up, well, heck, first of all, I think we have 1/3 of the research regulars. Richard L. No, wait. I think we have another third of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. Katie Fowler, you guys are back from your wonderful trip. I was following you on the social media. It looked like you guys had a great time and great weather. Either that or we only saw the 5 or 6 times weather was happening. The 5 or 6 times where you had great weather, but it looked like a wonderful trip. Who else do we got, Jim? Oh, my goodness.
We have our man from Chennai.
Shashank.
How's it going?
Good to see him here.
Yeah.
And, he was on the show. Now he's in the chat room.
You can't get enough of us.
Good to see you, man. All right. With that, am I missing anyone?
Unless there's lurkers who haven't said hi, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think I think we do have a couple of lurkers. And you're absolutely right, Jim. That is absolutely fine. I think now what I'll do is I'll take over for a bit and let's get the show on the road.
Sounds good.
Okie doke, everybody. We're asking the question, does the 80s classic, sport comedy classic, hold up? Before I get into the specific details, I think as we look at this movie, we've got to keep 3 things in mind. One, we have to be aware that it was shot in the late 70s. It was the National Lampoon crew, and so they were all high. They were all coked up. This is a well-known thing, well reported on later, so just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're judging this film. High AF. That's what the kids say nowadays. What else? Another little tidbit. This kills me to this day. And it didn't quite get it when it came out, but now I'm like, really? John Dykstra of Star Wars fame, who did all the practical special effects, the animatron, all that stuff, all the modeling, like he was the main guy. He did the gopher, or, perhaps as some might say, the kangaroo in this film. And last but certainly not least, again, important to keep in mind when we're thinking about this one, there is a character, and not just any character, a main character named Maggie O'Hooligan. which just kills me. All right. What else? What do we got to say about this flick? All right, everybody. This is sports movie from IMDb. An exclusive golf course has to deal with a brash new member and a destructive dancing golfer. It was directed by Harold Ramis, written by Brian Doyle-Murray, Harold Ramis, and Doug Kenney, who you might remember. We looked at the film. Jim, what was it called again?
A Stupid and Futile Gesture.
Thank you. The story of Douglas Kenney as he helped create one of the co-founders of National Lampoon. It starred Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Michael O'Keefe, Sarah Holcomb, who played the, Maggie again, and Bill Murray. But there was more. We've got like a whole bunch of kind of named comic actors there, and this kind of killed me, Jim. What was her character's name was Lacey Underall.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Lord. Cindy Morgan, who was also in Tron. For some reason I never put that together. Anyway, so moving forward, let's get into the so that's kind of the gag of the film. Let's and really it is, as much as it might talk, the golf course is kind of a character. It would be if National Lampoon had done an upstairs downstairs. That's kind of, I think, the best way. I suspect it was pitched that way. It'd be Downton Abbey might be something I'd be interested in watching if it was done by these folks. All right. Now, for the social nutrition checklist, would it earn a reframe stamp? What do you think, Jim?
No.
You would be right.
Not at all.
Okay. Would it, do you think it was union made?
I didn't. Did I check at the end?
Make a guess.
It was shot in Florida, so I'm going to, Harold Rat. Well, I'll say no, just to be provocative.
It was union made.
It was, okay.
Did it pass the Bechdel test?
Ooh, I don't think so. Did two women never talk to each other in the...
Never without a man being present.
Yeah.
And even if they did, I suspect a man would have been the subject, but never without a man being present. Then last but certainly not least, and here's one that kind of threw me for a loop, but I'm curious about your take first, Jim, before I give the actual answer, because I have declared myself the king of the social nutrition checklist. But I want to know, did you think it had a class consciousness, that it was a class conscious film?
I maybe I mean, they did talk, some people were wealthy and some people weren't. The kids generally seemed to, like the caddies themselves, seem to come from not the richest families. So I'd say maybe, I'd veer towards yes for that.
Okay. I initially, when I turned it on, I was like, yeah, maybe I'm going to make an argument of why it gets a solid green check mark here.
Sure.
So, I'm looking forward to that conversation, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay. So to answer, to give you guys the full meal deal here, it's got a score of 50%.
Half a coda.
Half a coda. Half a coda. Yes. Damn, that was a good movie. I was encouraging a friend to watch that the other night, Jim.
Yeah.
And I've got to call her now to get the report. But even as I was talking about it, even as I was talking about you and I and how excited we got, I got misty.
Yeah.
Damn, that was a good movie.
And now you see the preview every time you turn on Ted Lasso. It's that little Apple TV 45-minute, like, oh, my friends.
I love you too. Okay. We are now moving into let's get into the quick review, Jim.
Sure.
What's your quick take?
All right. Well, I thought, it was very funny. I've just got my little notes up here on the screen. It's still really funny in parts. The overall structure of the show, the movie is, it feels kind of a little bit slapdash and a little bit anachronistic, in terms of the brash, the nouveau riche coming in and upsetting all the rich folks. It's a lot of that. You can see this in movies from the 30s. You can see it probably in vaudeville, like that. The brash outsider.
I was thinking of Charlie Chaplin as soon as you said that, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, this is a sort of a kernel or a nugget of a story that goes way back. A lot of that kind of, well, I never kind of humor where you're pulling one over on the stuffy old people. But Rodney Dangerfield, I found him actually. I was surprised at this. I found him physically really funny. Like whenever he danced and stuff, he sort of instantly turned into a cartoon character. I suspect that Harold Ramis was a little bit intimidated by him, because a lot of the movie, it's almost like an extension of his stand-up act. Like he'll just like walk through a crowd and, hey, how about this? Hey, what about your wife? And he'll just knock down all these one-liners. The cast is pretty funny. Bill Murray, again,
Cinderella story.
Yeah. But you know what? Surprisingly, even Ted Knight, he was obviously a caricature, but there was times when he was trying to be a weasel, and he pulled this into that was sort of his Mary Tyler Moore shtick and all the other sitcom shtick, where he would be talking to Danny and he would say, "What about this?" And he would do this sort of modulation of his voice whenever he's doing something. And he was watchable. It was a caricature, but he was watchable, and it was kind of fun to see him, just sort of be that stuffy old guy. And I like seeing Chevy Chase in a non-dad role, because we had just seen him in Vacation, and he's clearly a bachelor in this one, and that gave him different things to do. I thought it was kind of interesting morally, and we'll go into it, and I won't spoil it yet. But the character of Lacey Underall is not slut shamed, and she's just sort of forgotten about.
Not by the film, but by another character.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right,
continue.
Too. But it's not extensively, and she doesn't pay for any. She has no punishment, I don't think. And Michael O'Keefe, the Danny Noonan character, also does something and doesn't get morally punished for it. So that's kind of interesting. And that's probably straight from the National Lampoon Kids. But
also the late 70s.
Yes, yeah. But it's kind of hard to hate on anything directed by Harold Ramis. It does feel slapdash. It does feel episodic. We could get into that. But, was it funny? Yes. Was I entertained? I was entertained. Does it feel 40 years old? Yeah. But a couple little connecting scenes. Can you hear me?
Okay, yep, you're back.
A couple little connecting scenes would have made this a little bit of a stronger movie. Apparently, Harold Ramis had a hard time watching it, but years later. But anyhow, so that's my take. Funny, needed some work, but how about you?
You know what, Jim? I was pleasantly surprised when I watched this. I was really nervous, actually, about watching this again. And I'm like, oh, am I just going to hate on this whole thing? Am I just going to go, it's juvenile, it's ridiculous? It's like, no, actually, I came out going, that had some solid laughs. As you said, Jim, is it 40 years old? Am I 40 years older? I was 13 when this came out. Am I 44 years older? Yes, I am. But given who its target market, it was definitely aimed at younger people. Mm-hmm. Ted Knight and I'm going to say this, Ted Knight and his other cronies are actually what makes this movie work. Everyone else would have no one to work against. He was such a dick.
Yeah.
Like a buffoonish dick, but such a great buffoonish dick.
Yeah.
And he really committed to it. Yeah, Rodney Dangerfield could have been the jerk, except that there's Ted Knight there, more than willing to match him. So yeah, I even now, there were moments where I'm like, that's just fucking funny. And you laugh at the right time. And yeah, all the things I was worried about. You're absolutely right. The Lacey Underall character, it's like, and that was one of the characters I was really worried about. It's like, and then she's always kind of in charge of her, you know what? She is slut shamed by another girl in a kind of offhand comment where you kind of know where that girl, that actor or that character is coming from. And then of course later on, well, that's spoiler zone stuff. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Yeah, it was a lot more fun than a 44-year-old comedy, very much of its time deserves to be. It reminded me of how entertaining all these folks could be. You and I have talked about this before. Chevy Chase has become kind of a caricature of himself, but there was a time where he could really kind of own a scene. And you're right, there was, it's why I kind of mentioned how high they all were. Because there's some stuff where it's like, there's a whole shot, there's not a whole shot, multiple shots of just, why are we watching Chevy Chase's ass? Who cares? Like, it's not like it's an exceptionally good one. It's not like that's the gag. I'm thinking it's like, yeah, they didn't get enough coverage. They did not get a proper reaction. They're just like, that's good enough. But I also saw where Harold Ramis, and I felt differently about any of the times when these actors were really starting to chew up the scenery, especially Rodney Dangerfield. It's like there are times, especially in something like this, that is kind of has a story but kind of doesn't, where it's like, just follow the laughs. People, when they leave, they're not going to go, wow, I really feel like I changed the arc of the story, fulfilled me. They're going to go, yeah, did I laugh? Yeah, I laughed my ASS off. And I think we can still see a lot of that in this film. I didn't laugh as hard as I did. I'm not 13 years old. A 13-year-old now, I don't think, like, it just wouldn't fit now. But does it hold up? Well, yeah. I think you're getting an idea. I think it did hold up. Which leads me to my next question, Jim. What did you think it was worth people's time? I certainly do. I think even now it's worthy of watching. There's a couple of cringe moments, but
yeah, I mean,
I even think its politics was solid, which I'll get into more later.
Depending on the person, I wouldn't recognize I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to, like, my older relatives or anything like that. But, I maybe my son, I don't know, would my daughter like it? Probably not. But, there's certain, it's a very set PC. It's a very
any
set
movie
PC
you're
movie.
going to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to go, oh, you don't like, this is the greatest horror ever. Don't like horror, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see myself recommending it, or saying to somebody, hey, when was the last time you saw that? Well, give it another watch. It's on Crave HBO or what have you, Price is right. So.
All right. Well, on that note, we are now, let me tell you, folks, we're entering the spoiler zone.
Uh-oh. That's
right,
Shashank,
Robbie's got new graphics.
That's why Shashank took off.
Before we get into the meat of it, we do, Shashank had to go. great seeing you here. Always great to see you here, Shashank. We do have a interesting note from Richard. I wouldn't mind putting up before we get into the meat of it. Caddyshack reminds me a lot of MASH, even though there's a decade between the two. Both have an irreverent, bizarre sense of humor aimed at baby boomers, and so are really of their time. Huh. You know what? I'm not 100% sure this was aimed at boomers. I thought it was aimed at like really young boomers and us. There wasn't actually a lot of swearing. Like I was able to see it in the theater, if memory serves. It wasn't like it had to sneak in or anything. It was, ratings were a lot easier at the time. Like, you could see, I saw a lot of horror in 1980.
It's like an upmarket Porky's.
Classy Porky's.
Yeah, classy Porky's. How about this? Porky's, but classier and with more golf.
You know what? Let's put a pin in this comment. Let's circle back to this later, maybe at the meaning phase. And then here's another. We do have a suggestion to take a look at MASH as it doesn't hold up, and I think that's a great idea. Richard has already stated his opinion on that, so I think we almost have to do it.
By the way, bonus points for the acronym spelling. Richard doing M.A.S.H instead of just the word MASH.
Yeah,
that's on point.
But if only you'd put the little stars.
Oh yeah, well, that might be one of those things on Wikipedia that says stylized in title.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. As far as the craft goes, Jim, if you're cool, I'll get started with this.
Yeah.
I think other than the comic performances, maybe not slapdash, but definitely, maybe slapdash. Like it's got a looseness. There is a lot of young people getting high making a movie, while at the same time still so expletive deleted here, talented.
Oh yeah.
Heck, insert the expletive of your choice here, talented, that it's still. You can see why it has classic attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a sports comedy, hearkening back to our conversation with our friend, Professor Eric R. Williams, who's now on sabbatical, so we can't reach out to him for a year, which is my own fault. We have a great... it's worthy of that. It's worthy of that moniker, but not because of the cinematography. Like I said, there are a whole series of shots of just Chevy Chase's ass where it's like, why are we?
It's probably in his contract.
No coverage. Again, no coverage. The costuming is all ridiculous. Like that was over the top tacky even for 1980. No one really dressed like that. They're just doing it for effect, and they're throwing everything at it, which I think all of the craft could really just come down to, well, is it going to be funny? I don't think the gopher that became a weird kind of little star was so obviously a puppet. There's nothing here where you're going, cinema art, the pinnacle. It's a very good example of, it just needs to be good enough to set up what we're really here for.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about craft, or one of the things that I wanted to say is props to the stunt performers, because there was a couple of scenes there, if all the accounts are true and everyone was as high as a kite, there's a couple water stunts in that whole boat set piece that looked absolutely dangerous. And there was one where Rodney Dangerfield is, driving his boat crazily, and tips a stage of like a whole platform of a dozen people over. That I was sort of, now that I'm of an age that I worry about other people's kids and that sort of thing, I just thought, holy, that's a lot of people falling into the water from a platform at once. And what was the other one? Oh, the lifeguard. It was absolutely unnecessary, and they would have been kicked out of the pool. But when it's caddy day at the swimming pool, and they take the lifeguard chair, the 13-foot high chair, and they push it over with the lifeguard still in it. You can see it's sort of a slow motion shot, but I think he either gets it gets the actual chair in the back or the back of the neck or something. And I just thought, this is the kind of movie where, not to take away anything from the stunts, where if something was kind of loose about the stunts, it would be this movie when everyone's coked up. And I was sort of worried. And there's a couple of those jet skis when I think Dangerfield says, "Oh, the Olympic team," and the jet skis just about hit his boat, and they were really close. And of course, these people are professionals; they know what they're doing. But this is one of these things that you hear stories about afterwards. That things were probably a lot more dangerous than they seemed. But anyway, so that. Good on that. We don't really talk a lot about stunt performers, but here I'll give them
that's a great point, though, Jim.
Good on you for surviving and doing the stunt.
I wonder if on some of the stunt work that they had done, because you could see some of it, it's like, you don't have any main cast around. I wonder if they're like the stunt performer, the stunt coordinator, the stunt, second unit directs, and just said, listen, I'll go get those shots for us. None of you high as AF, high AF jerks are coming near this set, because you're going to...
Dangerfield,
you see any of the other stuff. It's like, they even had... They had a stunt performer do the dive for the Lacey Underall character.
Yes, yeah.
That's noted. And you see it. And you kind of see, I suspect it was even shot on there's something different about that shot, not just her. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the stunt performances, even the way they cut it, like how far is the place that the guy lands on? Because we don't see a big fall into the water. We see a tight shot, right?
Yeah.
And so I suspect a lot of that, and could very well have been, we're, tell you what, we'll just get the grown-ups here will get these shots for you. Go get high in the hotel.
Yeah.
But it is interesting you bring that up, Jim, because, not that long after this, Twilight Zone movie and Landis killing that guy.
And the two kids.
Yeah, and the children. The
Vic Morrow.
And even now we hear, like, why does Uma Thurman have a bad back? Because not that long ago, the last time she worked for Quentin Tarantino, he nagged her into getting into a dangerous car that did have an accident and bugger up her back. Like,
these things happen.
It's a great point. It's a great point to bring up. Anything else you wanted to add to Craft before we move forward?
Well, there's a couple of things. I sort of I guess I had forgotten maybe the first few minutes that Harold Ramis had directed it, and it almost feels, when you're being introduced to Danny Noonan in his house with the 10 kids, and the ridiculous kind of crowded.
That's your nephew.
Yeah. And it almost seemed sort of like a John Hughesy kind of setup almost, but it's that sort of, it's that, like, he starts immediately with chaos, which is usually a good sign. Like if a director can handle the chaos, that's, he's willing to go to other places too. So, and then you can see what drives Danny to the golf course, like he's just, it's not a peaceful place.
Peaceful place.
Yeah, exactly. It's where he can hang out.
The ridiculous golf course is this place of zen.
Yes, yeah. But I thought, so there was certain things like that I thought, good way to start off. I should also mention that I liked a lot of the supporting cast. There was they seemed to have, they didn't have these sort of terminal binary relationships. Like it was the tough guy who sort of looks like Scott Baio, the older of the Italian caddies.
Awesome.
And he was a sort of a dick to Danny at the start,
Yeah.
but afterwards he was sort of in Danny's corner. So it was this really, I don't want to overpraise this, but it was sort of like a work in progress, like a lot of relationships are. And the smoking on the course and the unlikely event of them sort of disposing their butts on the green, which was probably
ridiculous sunglasses, which I totally remember wearing then. I'm not.
Oh yes, yeah. But some of that stuff was well handled. I should also say, whoever made that, I think when we first meet Rodney Dangerfield, he's wearing red pants and a jacket the pattern I can only describe as fruit stripe gum, if you remember that. And holy cow, if somebody made that or found it or thought about it and had to recreate it, good on the costumers. They did some pretty solid, work, 70s work. I mean, you're saying that nobody dresses like that. Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit over the top, but that one ensemble of his, amazing. And, it was perfect for the character too. Of course, he likes to get an orange ball, right? An orange golf ball. White's not good enough. So everything allowed.
Yeah. And even as much as I'm kind of poking fun. It's like, wow, John Dykstra did the gopher. Also, that golf bag, which I thought was an awesome prop. That was a killer prop. That ridiculous thing with television and everything. And even there's a moment, and I'm just going to praise, I think this is just a good acting praise, where I can't remember the character's name, but Buddy, the tough kid, the popped collar tough kid, smoking in his golfing gloves, the black leather. It's just
Tony.
Awesome. Tony, thank you.
Yeah.
Tony. And there's the other kid, because of course the way they hand out these assignments, and this obviously like a small child, It's like, but I remember that, and it was done so honest. I can do it.
And that was a good bit of physical comedy.
That was a great bit.
Yeah.
Even getting it out of a child.
Yeah.
But to start with, I can do it, which we've all said. We've all said, even though we know we've bit off way more than we can chew. It was a great bit of, physical comedy. And it's the first time we see that ridiculous prop. I may have to actually rewind and take back a lot of what I said about the props, the costumes and everything. Maybe it was all part of a unified piece. It's like, no, that's not loud enough. And to a point where they have a hat that then they're able to single out and go, even for us, that hat has gone too far.
I have the quote here. Oh, this is the worst looking hat I ever saw. What? When you buy a hat like this, I bet you get a free bowl of soup, huh? I don't understand it, but it's funny.
Okay. Anything else? Any other tidbit before we move on?
No, I think we sort of covered it. I'm just trying to think. Bill Murray's outfit as well was kind of classic too. But no.
And again, some of his props, the filth on him.
Yeah.
Like, it's
just that he's always got that camo hat on.
And why were his breasts? Why were breasts filthy? Or is it just his hands are filthy and this is where it's always filthy here, dirty, in every shirt he's wearing.
Yeah.
It's just okay. Moving on then. Story. Let's talk about the story. What do you think?
So that part I thought could have used a little bit of tightening up. Again, it doesn't need to be a Catcher in the Rye or anything like that. You're basically, you can argue it's a coming of age thing, kind of.
There's a bit of that. I would say more slice of life.
Yeah,
I
think
summer,
that's
the
probably more
kid's
accurate.
summer job, and that view from that, like, as he's growing up.
Yeah,
there is a Danny Noonan has got to make a move. This is his last summer. He's got to go to college. His parents don't have the money. He's, they want him to go to a good school, I guess, whatever. He's been slack. And so all of a sudden, this is his last time to make a play before he goes to work in the lumber yard.
Yeah. So, and this is all supposed to be set in the Midwest, of course, filmed in Florida. So they apparently wanted a golf course with no palm trees. This is all from Wikipedia. You guys can check it out if you want. But anyway, so the structure of the story I found a little bit set piecey. Again, does it work? Yeah, it's funny. And a lot of those comedies are built on set pieces, right? The whole boating, adventure, and of course, Rodney Dangerfield destroys Ted Knight's boat, or Al destroys the judge's boat. And then there's other there's a couple other funny bits. It tends to be a little bit episodic. Is it the priest that takes out Bill Murray in the middle of the storm? And
then he was his
having the best game of his life.
Which I wanted to ask you, that whole scene seemed to reference a different movie.
Yeah.
Like there was, if the music and everything, or maybe it wasn't referencing an actual other movie where they're almost parodying it a little, but there's there's another movie in that. Like I was thinking of Bible movies, some of the great Bible movies where climbing up that hill in the rain
with the lightning effects and stuff like that, and like the old school lightning effects, with almost looks hand drawn or what have you. So there is that, and they sort of fit in these things like the dinner at the club. I think it was the 4th of July dinner and a few other things. It's all based on all these various events. What I sort of didn't understand, I'm not really sure of why they gave him a girlfriend in this, because I maybe to show that he's got some stability in his life or something to that effect. But the Maggie O'Houlihan, and also
O'Hooligan, not
Houlihan,
right? O'Hooligan. It's a bar name.
Yeah,
I see them all after snorted a whole bunch of coke going, oh, what's it going to be named? Maggie O'Hooligan.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, how can you tell I've never been coked up? I just sound like a doper, or I'm drunk or something, but whatever it is. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah. Hooligan.
I'm good
and
with
then
names.
It stayed in the script.
Yeah. No, I mean, she doesn't really, she gives him a few withering glances, and, he's obviously interested in this Lacey girl, and there's the sort of the false pregnancy and stuff. But I sort of don't understand her position in the story, what she's there for, essentially. And actually, apparently in real life, the actress who played her, I think her name was Sarah Holcomb. I think she was the first.
The movie is made about her.
Yes,
kind of based on her somewhat tragic story.
And she's developed. I think she's still with us, but she apparently did develop schizophrenia in her 20s, and made something like 5 movies, one of which is Animal House. But yes, and why was she Irish? Because she's American. So there's a couple things there that I wasn't entirely sure what was going on, but
piles of coke.
Yes, let's make her Irish. So what did you think of the story? Like, what was your? Did you have any issues?
I feel better about it now again than I did going into it. It's like, okay, I get it, and they're able to. And you can imagine the pressure on Ramis. He's got Rodney Dangerfield. He's got, although what's interesting is, although he's kind of a big deal in the comedy world, he was not a household name until this movie.
Yeah.
This movie made him in his 40s. But he does have Rodney Dangerfield, and you don't want to waste it. You don't want to go, okay, we got to get you to tone down. You're going to be in like 2 scenes. You might just stick the camera on him and let him do his thing, right?
Yeah.
You have Chevy Chase. Now there, by that time, a huge name.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, another big or big enough name. You got to give these guys room to do their thing, right? And so I can kind of see the fact that we still kind of knew, it's like that we didn't, when Noonan shows up, when he pops in, when we see him, we're not going, oh, right, yeah, we started with this guy. We actually know he's got an agenda. He's also, I think, more of the time, especially the sexual mores of the National Lampoon crowd, their mores.
Yeah.
I think that was, and also I think as far as and it's too bad because she doesn't get enough to do. Sarah Holcomb, I mean, in well, to mind you, the character name like that was she going, oh boy, this is a meaty role. But she kind of showing that Noonan's got choices in his life about the kind of man he wants to be. Is he going to be kiss ass?
Yeah.
And go for the, but I also love though that both women, when he's, I'll do the right thing. She's like, I don't want to marry you.
Yeah.
Of course I'll keep the kid, but I don't want to marry you. No, no. And even the Lacey Underall after coitus, she's, when he's, we can still see other people. I'm cool with that. She just laughs at him. It's like, now, of course, I didn't get it as a 13-year-old. A little older, it's like, well, yeah, that is laugh-worthy, young man.
Yes.
Because she will.
Yeah.
If she's got an agenda,
cool.
It's maybe on the guy with all the $70,000 checks lying around.
Yeah.
The uncashed $70 checks. But, I like the fact that they did give these women that agency, that they weren't, they were, in the end, they're both kind of characters where you're like, you might want to hang with. They might be a fun hang. I was a lot gentler on the story by the end of it. That said, again, you're right. There is it's just enough of a story. Just enough to get through and everyone go, boy, that was fun. That was fucking fun.
Yeah.
I felt... And maybe that's a good thing, though, that we're right on the edge of it. That we're right on the edge of thinking, oh, this could really go sideways. And that it stays on track, that maybe the train's doing a little bit of this, and then a skip. It's like, oh, wait, no, we're still on the track. We get into the station. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe one of my criticisms of Free Guy, DMG. Oh, who did correct me on the... DMG's done a little bit of research on Rodney's age and his career. But I think one of the things about Free Guy, where I was saying that's a nice film, where I think this was a great film, is I always felt, no, these filmmakers, they're definitely not high. But they have everything completely under control. I'm on a very comfortable ride. Nothing's going to go wrong. I have to worry about nothing, which I think you want in a high-speed train travel in Europe. Damn straight I want that level of confidence and comfort. In a movie, maybe there should be a little bit of a, okay, who is at
Yeah.
Who is at the helm? This could be bad.
Yeah.
Hey, it all worked out. I don't know. And that's just me thinking out loud. But yeah, would I say, wow, what a great story? Or, it adds genius moments, but it does. And I've got to find it. It's that Harold Ramis thing when you're talking about comedy. A lot of comedy leads to bad filmmaking, but always err on the side of comedy. There's something to that effect. And I think this is a perfect example of this, and not just because Harold Ramis directed it. It really does show that it's like, if you keep your eye on the funny, you're going to deliver an awesome film. Or you've got a chance at delivering an awesome film.
Well, that comedy exists in the two shot. Remember that quote from the Stephen Tobolowsky piece there regarding Groundhog Day. So,
oh my goodness, get a load of this. Apparently, he was not in his 40s. Rodney was 59.
Yeah,
Jesus, boy, he was a good-looking 59. 37 before he even did stand up for the first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, good for him. And then that led to, a string of movies in the 80s for him, right? That was the start, I think, of it all, of a lot of it. But there's a great moment where he says to, Chevy Chase's character is called Ty, and he goes, "Hey, Frank, come over here. I want to talk to you." He goes, "Frank, Ty," and that's it.
Well,
and
I love that. Because what was Ty doing at the beginning? Calling Danny Betty.
Yeah.
Like he had a whole bit of not getting his name. It's Danny, sir. Danny. I love the fact that there was another rich jerk, basically doing the same effing thing, right?
Yeah. And apparently there was another somebody, according to some of the stuff that I've read online, is that there was somebody pointed out the fact that he had both Bill Murray and Chevy Chase in this movie, and neither of them had a scene together. So apparently that scene when Chevy Chase's Ty plays the ball literally through Bill Murray's little shack there. Apparently that was sort of a last minute addition, and so they could actually have some
to put them actually together.
Yeah, even though they were notoriously sort of not cool with each other. Carl Spackler,
bad blood.
Yeah, including I don't know if anybody's confirmed this, but apparently there was a fist fight between them at some point. So, in real life, prior to Caddyshack. So yeah, I mean, some of this movie is a little bit like that. They just take scenes and insert them here, and we need to do this. They insert it there. Sort of a little bit of a less of an organic feel, but you never it is what it is.
At the same time, like it's still like it's inserted, but it doesn't kind of go, wait, we're going over here now. They still keep in mind that they have a direction. They always kept in mind their end. Here is let's quickly, before we move into meaning, Jim, we've got some chatter, some chat, and even though some of it isn't even intended for us, Jim, like literally they're just having their own adventure. I figure it's our show. We can insert ourselves into their conversation.
Certainly.
Certainly. Okay, so we've got, I want to move back, way back. Okay, all right. We're talking about the movie. All right.
Hey guys, are we boring you over there?
Okay, DMG's makes a note of, it's weird of thinking of Ross and Monica's dad as Hawkeye instead of Al and Elda, referring to that movie difference. We also get a suggestion from DMG about use Stripes as a does it hold up? Definitely worth taking it on the list, putting on the list. Yes, definitely. The pool scene with the chocolate bar / turd.
Still funny.
Definitely referenced. Yeah, it still works as a gag. Now, this is the conversation I want to kind of insert myself here. DMG's asking Richard, whatever happened to those anti-establishment characters in film, Bugs Bunny, Hawkeye, Butch Cassidy? I think they haven't disappeared. The what's anti-establishment is different now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you could say, Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, maybe.
Well, but he's talking about whatever happened. That's like from the 70s.
Yeah.
That is the era. And this is.
I'm just saying to add to
DMG, that, or Richard responds, good question. Those characters seem to be a product of a certain era of movies. Yeah, the 70s. And I think that is really the kickoff from 1967. And everything kind of changing until Star Wars and Jaws, basically. Studios go, oh, okay, after we work out all the crap in our system, we'll just do this now. But if you think about Rambo in First Blood, mm-hmm. the heart of him was an anti-establishment character. Mm-hmm. I don't think, even moving into the 80s, Aliens, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's just the nature of those characters changed and the nature of movies did change, but it's not like they disappeared. I think maybe the style disappeared.
Yeah.
What's the last movie you saw where you could really say the lead was fighting the man? 80s and 90s, we had things like Falling Down. Like really, it went darker. If you were fighting the man in the 80s and 90s, except for, still one of my favorites. Here's a movie we got to look at. It holds up. Spoiler alert. I bet you it'll hold up. Is Trading Places.
Oh, yeah.
But it might be worthy of examining. Who knows? Maybe at the end of it, like, ew. But yeah, I think maybe it's the tone changed. There wasn't quite the cynical comedy of it. Like I'm thinking Catch-22, which is really, it's the MASH was mining the same ground Catch-22 did.
Yeah.
And a comic take on it. But.
Yeah, and then you sort of wonder if success with the anti-hero or those kind of anti-establishment heroes made the sort of the following of even darker people sort of open the door for them. So 20 years later, you have The Sopranos, where you're literally the lead character is a mobster, right? And not a hero and not heroic,
no.
But it's just sort of a detailing of his life, And so I wonder if things like that change. I mean, I would probably make some great big general statement and then totally forget entire movies and entire swaths of movies. But I once said, whatever.
Hot take. Hot take country.
Once I said something. We were going over American cities and saying, "Oh, what's come out of here? What about Milwaukee? What about Tulsa?" I said, "Has anything ever big come out of Seattle?" And there was a few seconds of pause, and somebody just said, "Nirvana." And I'm like, "Okay, shut up. I'm done with this."
Well, and this is, I think there's like at the tip of my tongue, just at the edge of my memory, I'm thinking there's like, I will after this think of 10 movies that are doing the exact same thing, just more in an aughts or a teens or a 90s way. And I'm just not thinking of them now.
Yeah.
Okay. We are really now starting to talk about the meaning though. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where I'm going to take my opportunity to why I think it's actually an incredibly class-conscious film. Is it a Marxist film? No. But if I think of my definition, which is really presenting working class people at least somewhat realistically, and that they are at least the film is even better if the character is, but at least the film is aware that the rich are they're screwing the working class, not, oh, we're all in this together. Yeah, this film nails it from the get-go. In the second scene, there's Danny and Ty, and they obviously like each other, and it's a great moment. You are sympathetic to them both, but it's literally, he's telling the guy, yeah, my folks are on my ass about going to college. I don't have the money. Literally, there's Ty who go, hey, I gave you $2.50 yesterday, like any other rich jerk. Hey, didn't I give you $2? And I don't think it was $250.
No.
I think it was $2.50, which would have still been, I mean, geez, what was minimum wage then?
In 1986, for under 18s at McDonald's in British Columbia, it was $3 an hour.
I remember 1985, 1984, I was working at Salisbury House here in Manitoba. It was $3.85 an hour. But 1980, United States, it's like, I mean, and even it was $250. So what? That's not college. Even in 1980, when it was a shitload cheaper throughout North America. But anyway, he's like, I'm going to end up working in the lumberyard. And that's what he's depressed about. And he's like, well, what's wrong with working in a lumberyard? I own 2 of them. And Danny says, I notice you don't spend a lot of time at them.
Yes. That's a good line.
And that sets the class-conscious tone for the rest of the film. None of these rich, they can be smart rich people, charming, or jerks or buffoons, but at no time are they ever presented as, these are the ones we should aspire to be. Yeah. While at the same time, and I think it's not so much the character, Tony maturing, is mostly, no, the caddies know who's on their side.
Yeah.
And Ted Knight does it so well, and this movie handles it so well, even with as he is just crapping on the black attendant, locker room attendant. And I want this buff to a high shine. And then he's telling, obviously some racist joke, and I'll give you, it's like, that's the moment. These people don't look at these folks like they are looked at by the Downton Abbey lower, downstairs folks do. Most of them, not all of them. There's a couple of radicals, but most of them are like, I'm part of this. It's like these caddies don't. They don't, not once, not ever. And that is why I think you can. There's nothing saying that it's some counter-revolutionary to enjoy time with a tie web. There's lots of nice tie webs. But here's a guy, knows his caddy, needs college money, and he's got uncashed checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. And it is only when the kid is going to help these rich jerks and their bet that all of a sudden the kid's like, and what I liked about that was even better. He doesn't even have to be a kiss ass. It's like, well, you need my skills. My skills will, and I like that he has something that all of a sudden these rich jerks need, and I'll make you. And you're right, Rodney Dangerfield and his physical comedy was just bang on. Yeah. But a cartoon. I thought for sure he was going to do a hip thing, but then I remember the arm, and even just the look, it's broken. Great moments all, but yeah, that's why I'd say it's a class. Yeah, it's a class conscious film. You can see all these guys. You see a lot of these guys like Brian Doyle-Murray and that. I could imagine them being just. Yeah, kids going, oh, these rich assholes, we have to eat their shit. We got to put up with their crap. Even the Lacey Underall, who's doing a bit of a, kind of a slumming thing. Oh, I'll sleep with these guys. I mean, her target, though, is Ty Webb's character, or the Ty Webb character. again, another thing that I thought maybe not intentional, but certainly of the time, seeing these women and some of the choices they made were incredibly dated, and at times like, you know, kind of, oh, well, that's actually pretty progressive. She totally has agency. She chooses her sexual partners. It's not, you know, like they're not even getting, the romancing is, you know, is fine and everything, but it's not, you know, you think about 80s and especially 90s when there really was, part of it being AIDS, a lot of social right-wing reactionary pushback. This idea is only sex with someone you love, you know, and that was in the 70s and late, you know, in the noughts and the teens, that certainly is kind of swinging back, but you know, yeah, it was kind of refreshing to see. But yeah, I think it was a very much class-conscious film. And it doesn't have to be always butting heads, but it's still the kid going, I notice you don't spend a lot of time there. and the time, well, yeah, good point, you know.
And that was a cagey line because it you know, showed that Danny's a sharp guy and that he's also that they have a relationship that a little bit anyway. He can call him out on his bullshit a little bit.
Yeah. It's and again, it's not like it actually, and that's another praiseworthy thing of this. Like it is certainly making fun of the country club. You know, a weird kind of. Oh, excuse me, terrible belch. A weird kind of anachronism that just continues to stick around, but certainly at that time was not held in as high a regard, and they're going after it hard. That said, there's still a variety of people who are members, not a variety of class or race, which is one of the contemptible things about the whole country club idea. That said, you can have fun, nice guys at the country club, and you can have the Judge Smalls, another. They must again that as that pile of cocaine shrunk, they were having a great time making up names. Lacey Underall, Judge Smalls, Spalding, but you know, there'd be fun ones, nice ones. The doctor doesn't care about his patients, or you know. Kind of cares. Dr. Beeper, some of these characters, even the bishop who loses his faith, you know.
Yeah, just
forsaken me.
Keep her. I'll be in the hospital in 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah, just stuff a tube down her nose. Like,
yeah,
I'll be there soon enough.
There's actually a line. There's a line here, and I'm just quoting this, folks. So it says. Al Chervik says to Mr. Wang, he goes, "Oh, I hear this place is restricted, Wang, so don't tell him you're Jewish, okay?" You know, like it's just,
and even that, like there's the comedy there, although I would say it's almost, Jim, I think Mel Brooks did it best and really put paid to it in Blazing Saddles. And Rodney was still going down that road, which he left pretty quickly after that, but he was still going down that road then. And a lot of his, you look at his Carson, you know, it's a lot of about his wife. And that kind of shtick, I think he was very much, in some ways, like kind of one of the last great Catskills comics. But there it was like it's half of it's funny. It's a Wang as the Jewish guy, you know, but it's also like I'm laughing, but maybe I shouldn't be. This is
but he's, I mean, with that gag, he's pointing out one of the things that are rotten about
the restrictions.
You know? Institutions, so.
The contemptible, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, but it's still you're also kind of like, I mean, Wang, you know, and you know, he's the Wang character. Well, we never hear him speak, do we?
Nope,
not once. You know.
Nope.
You know, I'll say so. Thank God they let the one black character. We do see two black people. One black character speaks. And then one guy just kind of bright eyes. The only one in just a fishing boat.
Yes.
That you could have seen at the lake. He's about to be run down by the rich jerk in the big boat. And he faces no consequences other than a ridiculous bet.
One of the things, too, that apparently Harold Ramis said about the film is that I can barely watch it. I just see that there was a lot of compromise. But the one thing he said, and everyone's got such horrible swings except for Michael O'Keefe, who played Danny Noonan. And that sort of, reinforces the whole plot point when they, Rodney, my arm's broken. And so they bring in Danny Noonan.
Well, when you look at the scorecard and it's all things, and they do, there's a good moment where I don't know, this is the worst game of my life, and Ty's like, don't be so hard on you. You're just not good. It's a great little. You're just not good, and I love the way he then bails on the bet. And then hires, like all rich people, I need a ringer, and that, I think that even the way Danny Noonan covers for Judge Smalls earlier in the film, which is part of where he's like starting to feel, it's like, I'm letting this jerk cheat because I got to kiss his ass. And he's such a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, and while he still has to, it's the world we live in right now. He still has to get some rich jerk to give him some money. He is not, there at least he's like, oh wait, I have an edge. He's willing to make it worth my while.
Yeah.
With all his winks and other bullshit,
Yeah.
Anyway, so there is. I think some of it's intended meaning in that, boy, these guys really had a mean on for the country club. They really had, and I think some of them, and we talked about this when we were talking about A Futile and Stupid Gesture, they did come from this class. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them did. They did know this set, and I think they really wanted to go after this set. They also, a lot of them, Brian Doyle-Murray, him and his brother, they all caddied. They're all, and they all had to put up with this crap. And you're not caddying because you're a son of a rich person. You're caddying because you needed the money. So I think you had both those tensions in the writing room and in the as the project developed. That's why you get a film that is, unintentionally but incredibly class conscious. Yeah. Again, I noticed you don't spend a lot of time at them, sir.
Yeah, and then great, a great character developing line came early. It's sort of that Danny can sort of depending on the situation can cut through the bullshit, but other times he chooses to brown nose. So it was. I'm glad you remembered that one.
And it is part of his arc, eh? It's why he's like he doesn't want a brown nose. He feels he has to, and then by the end of the film, it's like, I can't do it. I feel like of course, the story gives him that opportunity to get out. Because he, up to the end, he was gonna be the good guy because, of course, he had slept with Lacey.
For those that are interested, the part of the filming of the movie is actually depicted in that A Futile and Stupid Gesture, and I had meant to. I sort of ran out of time. But I had meant to go and watch that part of that movie regarding Doug Kenney, his involvement with the show. So that, if you're interested, if you've watched this and you're interested in following up on that, it's on Netflix. Price is right. You just got to use the little bar there and fast forward to the Caddyshack parts if that's all you want to see. But,
But I think it's worth watching the whole movie.
What's that?
Especially after watching this, maybe a couple of the other, watch that movie and you get an appreciation for both.
Yes,
the milieu, that they're talking about in A Futile and Stupid Gesture. I want to use this I wanted to ask you this, Jim, again, much like the scene with the assistant groundskeeper and the bishop, which I think is referencing another film. DMG is saying, is that where they got the Sandlot? Is that where the Sandlot got You're Killing Me Smalls? I never saw the Sandlot, so I don't know, but maybe you.
No, it's a classic, and I've not seen it either. So I'm afraid I can't help you out with that.
Well,
a lot of people refer to it, so maybe we should probably watch it at some point.
And we can just watch it on a regular week as we dive into the movies we haven't seen.
Yes, exactly.
But there is a moment at the third act. Chevy Chase is really starting to fade a little. Ty Webb's character's fading, and then he's doing this weird kind of Zen thing, sort of a bizarro world repeat of what he was doing in the first act, where it's not quite working. And Danny says, "Oh, get it together, man! Like, you're flaking out here." Where he was, be your future. He was doing this shtick, and the first thing I thought of was Happy Gilmore, and who is the player in it? He is only in the first act, and he does that bit.
Okay.
He does that bit, and all I can think of is like, here's the thing, I'm wondering, what films did this film reference, but who has referenced Caddyshack? Like, I am sure. Well, if he wasn't just basically saying, when he showed up on set, and because it was an SNL alum of Adam Sandler's. Okay. And I am going to find him in a second.
While you're doing that, I'm sort of
Kevin Nealon. Kevin Nealon plays this pro, sort of welcoming on to the tour, and you got to be the ball. The ball wants to go into its home, and I was like, I could see Nealon going, "Oh, you just need me in the first act. You know what? I want to do what Chevy Chase was doing in Caddyshack. Is that good? That's what I'm going to do. Well, whether it's good or not, that's what I'm doing." And that's what he did. It was a weird little kind of side character where you're like, it just kind of added some color to the scene.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, where else do we see this movie? Because you'd think we'd see a lot of it in other films, but I don't know if we do.
Caddyshack 2? Apparently it was a really, really horrible sequel, and only Chevy Chase reprised his role. But I was going to say the one with the bishop, the whole sequence of the bishop, he gets struck by lightning.
I'm sure to Chevy Chase's regret, until he's, that's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here.
But I think I wonder if it was referencing the Ten Commandments when Moses is on top of the mountain. Doesn't he get hit by lightning and that kind of thing? I mean,
maybe that's it. Like he is challenging God.
Yeah.
That the character is like, he's like, I'm infallible. It's like, ooh, that's when his Pancho Villa to this guy's Don Quixote is like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work out.
Get out of here. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Jim, I think it's that time.
Sure.
That we, as we move forward in our agenda, first of all, I think it's that time to beg everyone for a like. Of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Last, certainly not least, ring that bell. Gotta love having that back.
Yeah, it's nice.
Jim, what do you take over now? Why don't you tell us about what we're watching next week?
We are watching the newest movie in the MCU offerings about a Canadian. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think he plays Canadian. You're watching Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Wrong one. Sorry.
Well, it's close.
There we are.
Without all the overlays, but yeah. starring Mississauga's own Simu Liu. It's good. This is come on, dude. Let's deliver. I'm looking forward to this one.
The buzz is huge.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
He's a favorite. The ladies in the house love this guy. We're big Kim's Convenience fans. It's one of those shows that's easy to watch with your kids because there's nothing HBO-y is going to happen, basically. But and at the same time being pretty tight show for the most part. But it's going to be a good one, I think.
Here's a question for you. Well, actually, never mind. I don't have a question for you on this. What I am excited about is they've seen the error of their ways, and it's gone back to the way it was a few weeks ago, where you have to prove that you've been vaccinated or have some other. And I am super jazzed about that. That is the way we're going to go from 81% to 95%, as all these folks kind of go, I can't engage in life unless I finally get my head out of my you-know-what and get the vaccination. And let's all get back to, some kind of normal. And I'm super jazzed about that. And that said, and I'm also jazzed about the fact that we're no longer the worst in the country.
Yeah.
We're no longer the hillbillies. That's Saskatchewan and Alberta's problem now, to be the unvaccinated morons of the country, which I'm totally comfortable with.
We need to set up like in that Clint Eastwood movie, The Gauntlet. We need to set up a gauntlet of old prison buses along the border of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And
I love those movies.
Yeah.
I love those movies. They would not hold up. Not at all. But
it would be interesting.
I love that stuff. Okay. Why don't we now, let's move into, here's an interesting question. What kind of mark are we giving Mr. Ramis? What kind of mark would you give him?
I'd give him a pass. I think it's hard for me to, Harold Ramis, I've been watching him in SCTV, Mo Green, forever. And, this is where the professional critic divides off for me. And I couldn't give him a fail, but it is funny. It is funny. It could use some tightening up, but whatever. It's his first movie. There's obvious obstacles in the way, like mountains of coke, but give him a pass.
I agree with you, Jim. I think he gets passed on a curve. This is one of those ones where it's like, well, you managed to still make a funny movie, and at times gut funny. Some of the times I was laughing at this, it reminded me of what I thought was just the peak of hilarity when I was a teenager. And I thought that was awesome. What do you have? Do you have any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, there's just a couple of lines I wanted to write out. Well, first of all, for birding corner, all I wrote down was grackle. So I think at one point they had a grackle.
Was that where in Haiti it was a sign of good luck? The ball.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a crow. It was a grackle because you saw the sort of luminescence in the feathers. And I think it had a golden eye. Anyway, so that was birding corner. And then
birding corner with
this little line, set of lines. I think Lacey's talking to Ty, so it's Cindy Morgan talking to Chevy Chase. And this wasn't too long after this, but she says, "You're crazy," and he goes, "That's what they said about Son of Sam." This is fairly too soon. It was within a couple of years of that all happening. But there's a lot of little, in addition to the big set pieces, and the boat crash and the faux poo in the swimming pool and that sort of thing. There's a lot of little things in there too, especially with Chevy Chase, and he was sort of at the top of his game right around this area. So, and you can see he's charismatic and he's funny, and he did that clumsy stuff, even with the massage scene, right? Kept on, that's something that he did with Saturday Night Live, and it's still funny to me.
And at the same time, managing to be smooth.
Yeah.
Like he was still confident, smooth, suave, while bumbling, and I thought that you're bang on there, Jim.
Yeah.
Quick note: look who's here.
Yes,
Walt's Flicks Picks.
From the West Coast,
the final third of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars, and the man who, at my request, did do a Sink the Bismarck review and deep dive, which I have yet to see because I have been a little busy. But I will be doing that this week. Yeah, no, I was excited. It's like, oh, he's got that, and then it's like it's just sitting in the queue, and I'm just, I gotta do something else. I want to give it the right amount of time, Anyway, great to see you here, Walt. And
yes, and I'm wearing my retro Bombers Milt Stiegel jersey. So
holy cow!
So
all the sports stuff is coming out.
Yes.
DMG says Ryan Reynolds has been doing a Chevy Chase impression his whole career. That's not entirely off.
Yeah,
eh?
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Oh.
Like that charming, good looking, and kind of yeah.
I know there's the big year, but I don't think that's quite what Richard's talking about here. But Richard says, is there an equivalent of Caddyshack but about birding?
I think the big year is the closest thing. I'd have to look. Yeah. There's not been tons. There's some.
I'm wondering why we haven't done the big year yet, Jim. I know you've seen it, but I have not.
Speaking of which, before I forget to, and I know we're going to the green room, but after seeing the Green Knight, I was thinking
in less than a minute
we might want to look at Excalibur at some point. As does it hold up?
Ooh,
so
that's a great idea.
An interesting one. So
that's a great idea. Okay, folks, it is, yes, we are wrapping up though. Want to say to everyone in the chat, Walt, thanks again for popping in, man. Yes. Richard and Katie, thank you very much for coming by. DMG, thank you for coming by. And no, we're not doing the first night. That's terrible, eh? Shut down. Perhaps we'll look at it. Where are we? Okay, DMG, thanks for not only hanging out with us in the chat, but joining us in the show to talk about what you've got on your radar.
Yes, thank you.
A lot of exciting movies there. Can't wait for the top 5 of your 10 movies you're excited about for this evening. Richard, Katie, Shashank, I know you're not here right now, but you might see this later. Here's your Easter egg, Shashank. And am I missing anyone, Jim? I don't think so. I think I've got everyone. We had it's everything's getting into the back to normal with our usual crew, and as nights get a little darker and everyone's like, oh, let's go inside and watch YouTube.
It's pesky summer business.
I suspect Walt here is talking about No when DMG was being a smartass about the first night with Sean Connery.
Well, isn't that a spoiler? I think
Richard Gere.
Isn't Sean Connery's like a cameo and he comes in at the end or something? Is that? Am I remember that correctly?
I think he comes in a cameo in Robin Hood.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
with Kevin Costner. Okay,
gotcha. Yeah.
Alrighty. With that out of the way, I think it's time for Jim and I to, take this off and head into the green room.
Good night, Ed Asner.
Yeah, absolutely. A great actor, a great performer for decades, and a solid union guy. Solid union guy and a great friend of the working class.
Yes,
a member of the working class, active in his union. All right, everyone, we're gonna say goodbye now as we let's cue the outro.
Salut.